Time now for a look at the day's business news, and for that I'm joined here in the studio by Yuka Royer from our business desk. And Yuka, we're starting with the latest antitrust lawsuit lodged against Amazon.
Well, Thomas, the US state of California is accusing the e-commerce giant of violating its antitrust law by blocking price competition and making online shopping more expensive for everyone. Now, the lawsuit is limited to California, but if successful, it could trigger similar action in other states. Yinka Oyatade reports.
It's the biggest legal challenge facing Amazon in the US yet. The world's largest online retailer stands accused of violating California's competition laws and harming its customers. Those allegations coming from the state's attorney general, who filed a lawsuit against Amazon on Wednesday.
We allege Amazon's practices violate the ability of other online retailers to compete, contributing to Amazon's dominance and harming merchants and consumers through inflated fees and higher prices.
At the heart of the lawsuit is the way Amazon pressures sellers not to list items at lower prices on other competitors' websites, a practice the Attorney General says penalizes merchants who don't comply by making their listings less visible. These conditions, California says, forces sellers to make the uncomfortable decision between raising prices on rival sites or risk losing sales on Amazon, which is the largest online retailer by far. Amazon argues it's working in the customer's interest.
The relief the Attorney General seeks would force Amazon to feature higher prices to customers, oddly going against core objectives of antitrust law.
While a similar lawsuit filed by the state of Washington earlier this year failed, California has more resources to pour into its litigation. If the case is successful, it could set a precedent that would have wider national implications.
Now, prices continue to rise around the globe, and Yuka, here in France, the latest inflation figures have just come out.
Well, the final figures for August show that prices rose by another 0.5% in the month, bringing annual inflation to 6.6%. That's when harmonised with other EU countries. That's slightly less than in July and significantly below the European Union average of 9.1%, but still affecting consumers here in France. Now, on Wednesday, the government announced a plan to extend its price cap on household energy bills next year, though the increase will be limited to 15% instead of the current 4%.
Now, meanwhile, Argentina is grappling with one of the world's highest inflation rates.
Well, inflation there rose again by 7% in August, meaning prices are almost 80% higher than a year ago. Inflation had been high for some time, but the situation has been worsened by rising global food and fuel costs. The government has pushed retailers to freeze some prices, with some supermarkets rationing purchases of staples like flour, sugar and milk. But the measures haven't been enough to tame soaring prices. Let's hear from ordinary Argentinians.
People are scraping by. Unfortunately, the money isn't enough. People are getting used to it. But the problem is that you never have extra money to indulge or to live better.
As the dollar goes up, your salary becomes worthless. One used to make $100, but now what's $100?
Yesterday I went to the supermarket and I came back home with a bad feeling. From one week to the next, you spend double.
Well, let's have a quick check-in now on the world's financial markets, Yuka.
Well, European markets started the trading day on a positive note, rather mildly though, with London's FTSE gaining nearly 0.5% at the open. Investors are bracing for yet another major interest rate hikes coming from the US Federal Reserve next week. Asia was a mixed bag earlier. Tokyo's Nikkei eking out modest gains despite the latest trade data for the country, rebounding from a sharp sell-off on Wednesday. Shanghai dropped by 1.5%, and Seoul's Kospi also down by about 0.33%.
Now, Yuka, Japan has posted the biggest monthly trade deficit on record.
Well, there are two main drivers for this. A weak yen, which has declined by about 24% against the US dollar over the past year, coupled with rising commodity prices, led to Japan logging the largest trade deficit since records began in the 1970s. In the month of August, imports rose almost 50% in value, more than double the 22% increase in exports. This causing the trade deficit to swell to about $20 billion. Japan's external trade has been running in the red for 13 straight months, Thomas.
Okay, Yuka Huaye with that business news. Thank you so much.